Welcome once again to Commander by Danon. Today's video was brought to us by Patreon supporter Jacob. Huge thanks to Jacob and the rest of my Patreon supporters. Jacob reached out asking for a Bracket 3 deck led by Hope Estheim, and I was more than happy to build that for him. Also, and I know it's annoying to keep hearing this, but statistically if I don't ask you to like and subscribe, the video gets fewer subscribers. Hope Estheim is a 2-mana 2/2 legendary human wizard with lifelink. At the beginning of our end step, each opponent mills X cards, where X is the amount of life we gained this turn. Hope creates something new by combining two archetypes, Mill with life gain. Now, Mill is one of the most hated deck types in the world. People get more mad at Mill than they do at counterspells. I mean, at least when you're playing against a prison deck, you have a chance of drawing something that maybe can get you out from underneath the oppression. But with a mill deck, you just get to sit there and watch as your cards go to the graveyard. So the mill player gets targeted. But our deck also comes with life gain, which will make it harder for some decks to finish us off. Sounds like a match made in heaven. Or hell, depending on your perspective. Now, Hope is from Final Fantasy XIII, which, unfortunately, is one of the Final Fantasies I haven't played. I know that he's basically an innocent who winds up getting thrown into the conflict against his will. I've also heard that because he has such low hit points, many players avoid using him altogether. But that's about all I know. Sorry I couldn't provide more information. But before we get to our deck list, a quick word from our sponsor, Ultimate Guard. Ultimate Guard is made famous by their boulders. Solid, reliable, and affordable deck boxes. Boulders are now available in solid colors, like this beautiful red one seen here. Find out if your local game store carries the new Ultimate Guard solid color boulders, or click on the link down below to order yourself one from Amazon. In order to build a functional commander deck, you need lots of different pieces, which is why I try to rely on my handy-dandy checklist. 50 mana sources, usually split between 37 lands and 13 pieces of ramp, 10 pieces of card advantage, 8 to 10 pieces of spot removal, 2 to 3 board wipes, 2 pieces of graveyard hate, and 1 sudden I win card. Oh, one more quick announcement before we get started. I'm currently streaming over on Gaming with Danon as well as Twitch. It'll mostly be Final Fantasy XIV, but you're more than welcome to pop in and talk about Commander. Honestly, about half my streams are talking about manga, anime, or Commander. To start off our land base, we've got Command Tower, Exotic Orchard, and Reflecting Pool. I know Reflecting Pool isn't the same budget as the other two, but Jacob said he had specifically bought one for this deck, so I tossed it in. Next up, for dual-colored lands, we're running Hallowed Fountain, Sea of Clouds, Glacial Fortress, Glacial Floodplain, Idyllic Beachfront, Prairie Stream, Irrigated Farmland, Flood Farm Verge, Adarkar Wastes, and Hengegate Pathway. Wanted to mostly run lands that came in untapped. Of course, as an exception, we've got Azorius Chancery. I know that bounce lands get a lot of hate, but I like them a lot, even in decks that aren't running extra lands per turn effects. Think about it this way. If there were a mana rock that cost 1 mana, came into play tapped, but then tapped for 2 mana every turn, it would see play in just about every commander deck. I mean, Guild Signets cost 2 mana, and you have to pay a mana every turn to activate them. So they're technically worse than a bounce land, but no one bats an eye when you play them. So why not run bounce lands? Now, since we care about life gain, we're also running Tranquil Cove, Sajiri Refuge, Adventurer's Inn, and Radiant Fountain. It's nice to run thematic lands if you can. Our utility lands consist of Command Beacon, Mystic Sanctuary, and Evolving Wilds. Finally, for basics, we're running 7 plains and 7 islands. We don't have to worry about mass land denial in a Bracket 3 commander deck, but basics come into play untapped, they're cheap, and if Jacob ever wanted to move up to Bracket 4, he's got the basics to work around Blood Moon. For mana ramp, we're running Grand Arbiter Augustin IV, the water crystal, and the wind crystal, all serving as cost reduction. Now, normally I'm not a fan of reducing the cost of a single color when we've got a 2-color deck, but both of the crystals from the Final Fantasy set work very well with what our deck is trying to do, so they're fine. I've made my case before, but here it is again. Pearl Medallion won't help us cast Negate, but a Sky Diamond will help us cast Disenchant. I'm not saying cost reducers are bad, but just keep that in mind if you're adding them to your deck. Next up, we've got Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Talisman of Progress, Azorius Signet, Marble Diamond, Sky Diamond, Mind Stone, Felwar Stone, Thrawn Dynamo, and Stone Speaker Crystal. Finally, some land ramp in Wayfarer's Bauble and Solemn Simulacrum. A good mix of land ramp, cost reducers, and mana rocks, as is appropriate for our color identity. For card advantage, we've got Drogskull Reaver, Sphinx of the Revelation, Faithful Mending, Sphinx's Revelation, and Union of the Third Path as standard card advantage. Alhammarret's Archive and Teferi's Ageless Insight both act as boosters to our card draw. Archaeomancer to help with recursion. Finally, Starfield Shepherd and Mystical Tutor as tutors. To start off our interaction and spot removal, we've got Absorb, Narset's Reversal, Reprieve, Counterspell, Dovin's Veto, and Overrule as counter magic. For spot removal, we've got Path to Exile, Heliod's Intervention, and Capsize. For protection, we've got Dawn's Truce, Restoration Magic, and Riot Control. Finally, for Graveyard Hate, we've got Rest in Peace, Soulless Jailer, and Angel of Finality. Don't want our opponents to use the cards in their graveyard after all. For board wipes, we're running Fumigate, Supreme Verdict, and Cyclonic Rift. Plenty of ways to reset the board as needed. The core of our deck consists of Mother of Runes, Swiftfoot Boots, Lightning Greaves, Gold-Forged Thoptrix, and Mithril Coat as protection. Wanted to ensure our commander stayed alive until the end step after all. Gogo, Master of Mimicry, Rock's Faithmender, Spark Double, Beacon of Immortality, Y'shtola Rule, Bruvak the Grandiloquent, and Space-Time Anomaly all help with our core theme. Elixir is here because it is thematic and also lets us protect our own graveyard. For optional paths to victory, we're running Serra Ascendant, Angel of Destiny, Felidar Sovereign, Approach of the Second Sun, Absolute Virtue, Aether and Prerwin, and Caduceus, Staff of Hermes. Some thematic equipment to beat down our opponents, and some big creatures to provide the beatings as needed. Finally, for some real fun, Illusions of Grandeur. I was watching Maldhound stream the other day when he was reviewing someone else's Hope deck, and got to see this wonderful card brought up. Don't worry, we'll discuss it. Now that we have our deck list, let's compare it to our checklist. 50 mana sources split between 35 lands and 15 pieces of ramp. 10 pieces of card advantage. 15 pieces of interaction. 3 board wipes. 4 pieces of Graveyard Hate in Stone Speaker Crystal, Rest in Peace, Soulless Jailer, and Angel of Finality. 1 Sudden I Win card in Capsize. Okay, so Capsize is here to bounce Illusions of Grandeur back into our hand. Not on our turn, on an opponent's turn. Allow me to explain. Illusions of Grandeur gains us 20 life when it enters, and we lose 20 life when it leaves. Our commander causes our opponents to mill equal to the amount of life we've gained at our end step. Let me clearly state, this is the sum total of life gained. If we bounce Illusions of Grandeur back to our hand, we gained 20 life and lost 20 life for a grand total of 0. This means our opponents would mill 0. However, if we cast Illusions of Grandeur on our turn, and then bounce it back to our hand on an opponent's turn, we can then cast it again on our turn and gain 20 life, which means every turn our opponents would mill 20 cards. And that's assuming we don't have anything like Beacon of Immortality, Y'shtola Rule, or Bruvak the Grandiloquent on board when it happens. If we have all of them, we just win on the spot. Heck, if we have 2 of them, we could win on the spot depending on how much our opponents have drawn. Of course, we also have the instant win of Approach of the Second Sun with either Narset's Reversal or Reprieve. But to pull this off, you need 16 mana. You cast Approach of the Second Sun, then, while holding priority, you cast either Narset's Reversal or Reprieve. This returns the spell to our hand, allowing us to cast it again, making it the second time the spell has been cast, causing us to win the game on the spot. Yes, instant wins are a bit cheap to run in a Bracket 3 deck, but again, this combo costs 16 mana to pull off in a single turn. Not exactly an early game strategy. Do you have a Hope Estheim deck? What's your secret deck tech? Leave a comment below. Thanks for tuning in. Once again, a huge shout out to my editor Cutestuff. I couldn't make these videos without her. If you'd like to hire her to edit your own videos, she can be reached at cutestuff.edits@gmail.com. Link is down below. If you're looking for ways to support the channel directly, you can head on over to patreon.com/Danon. You can have a video made or just ask for help building or tuning a deck list. I also wanted to give a quick shout out to all of my patrons: Waffles, Jiraiya, Muffins, Marcus, Brett, Roxy, Alex, Borgie, Congo, Robert Pye, Kazaris, Patrick, Tiz, Art, Richard Sint, Boomy, Osra, Justin, Golden Walker, Captain Hammer, Yori Sleeves, Zach, Mr. Salty, and Hua. You guys are awesome. I post new Commander Deck videos every weekday, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified of new videos. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all again next time on Commander by Danon.